Good afternoon, viewers. I am Dr. Amarjit Kaur. I am Professor of Accounting and Dean for one reputed business school in NCR. Today we are going to discuss about subdivision of journal. I am sure you must have heard about journal, and maybe somebody would be aware of subdivision of journal as well. We are going to discuss in length that why do we need to have division of journal, which we call subdivision of journal, what is the importance, what are the limitations, and what type of subdivision takes place. So friends, before we talk about subdivision of journal, let's talk about journal first. Journal, as we know, is a book of prime entry. This is a book where the transactions are recorded for the first time. So whenever any transaction takes place in the business, it needed to be recorded somewhere so that we could process the transaction, and at the end of the day, at the end of the accounting year, we could prepare our financial statements, right? So journal is the prime book of entry. This is where any transaction is recorded for the first time, and we record in a chronological order, which means date wise. So we do record the transactions date wise as they happen in the business. Alright. Now the point is, had the size of the business being very small, it would be easy for business to record all the transactions in the journal book. But imagine the size is very large, where millions and billions of transactions are taking place on daily basis, and in 1 month's time, the number of transactions will be in a billion of numbers. It could be more than that. So in that case, in case I am interested to know, how would I be able to interpret that what has happened during the month? How would I be able to know the summary of the transactions for that month? I would need to wait for the year, before I could summarize what has happened to the business in different areas of operations, right? So the point I am making is this, that had the size of business been small, we may just do with the help of journal only, which we call as general journal or basic journal. But if the size of the business is very large and the transactions are numerous, then it is very, very important to divide the journal book into further subsidiary books, and that is what is known as subdivision of journal, right? So subdivision of journal is basically taking place in any business because of 3 major reasons. So what are those 3 reasons? Why do we divide the journal book into subdivision, into special books? So we do call them as special books, subsidiary books. There are many terms used for it. So the reason that we divide the journal book into further subsidiary books is, number 1, convenience. So why do we divide is the reason that it really brings convenience to the accountants, to the people who are keeping books of account, right? So instead of keeping everything, all the data, all the transactions in one book, we have special purpose books. We have specific books where we group transactions as per their nature. I will discuss in few minutes that what is the basis. So when I am saying nature, what does it mean actually, right? So first of all, as we are discussing the reasons for division of journal book into subdivision, so the first reason, as I said, is convenience. Because of that, we intend to divide the journal book into subdivision so that I can conveniently locate the data or the information pertaining to a particular nature of transaction. It could be, I want to find out how much purchase on credit took place in a month. How much sales did I make during the month of July, right? So to get answers to such questions, I am dividing the journal book into subdivisions. This is the first reason. Now, coming to the second reason. The second reason of dividing journal book into subsidiary books is division of labor. This is a very, very important reason. Just imagine the size of business if it is Reliance Industries Limited. The size of business like Adani Enterprises, size of the business like Procter and Gamble. These businesses, I am just quoting their examples, they have numerous transactions in a day, maybe in lakhs of numbers, right? So it's not possible that one accountant, one person to keep up the record of all transactions, happening on a particular day. So this helps in dividing the job amongst different people. That's what we call as division of labor, right? So this becomes the reason, this becomes the motivation for us to adopt subdivision of books in our books of accounts. So this is the second reason. Coming to the third reason, that why do we have subsidiary books in practice. The third reason is the information which we generate is classified. It becomes convenient to locate, it becomes the labor is divided, the job is divided. But the third important reason is that the information which is generated through the journal, through the recording part, the journal is recording basically. So we are recording the information by dividing them into specific groups. So at the end of the day we have classified information available, right? So these are the three major reasons for dividing the journal book into subdivision of journals, or you may call as special books. So if I have to talk about advantages of subsidiary books or special books, the discussion we just have actually taken place can be reused in the same context, that basically I am getting the information in a classified format. When labor is being divided, so these are the advantages. So the most important advantage of having subsidiary books in any business is to have the classified information available. That helps in decision making, isn't it? No, if I have a journal where I am not using the subdivision, what will be happening in that business? I would have all the information pertaining to sales, purchases, cash deals, furniture sold, everything in one book. Either I am selling furniture or I am selling goods. Either I am selling on cash or I am selling on credit. Irrespective of the nature, I am just putting everything in one book, right? And let's say some manager has to take a call. So I am a purchase manager and I need to take a call. Shall I be placing the order with XYZ Limited from whom I have been buying in the past or not? What is my experience? So how many days of credit I am getting by buying from these people? How much credit I am getting from another company, let's say ABC Limited. So I may not be able to trace or get this information immediately as a manager, and I have to take a call right away because there is somebody, the third party other than the ABC Limited and XYZ Limited, which has given me some good offer. But I want to analyze my previous transactions with ABC Limited and XYZ Limited before I take a call to accept or reject the third party, the third company's offer, right? So that is possible only if I am keeping subsidiary books. I will be able to locate the data with immediate action. So my accountant would be able to produce the purchase books data in front of me, right? These are the advantages of having subsidiary books. Now the question comes in, do we have disadvantages? Is there any disadvantage of having the subsidiary books? So nothing comes without the cost, as they say, right? So that is very much true for subsidiary books as well. The first disadvantage to my mind comes in is the cost of keeping the books of accounts. Every single book, we are assuming the labor is divided, and every single book or every single type of book is being taken care by someone else, someone independently. Or maybe there could be one person taking care of two types of subsidiary books, or maybe three types of subsidiary books. There's another person taking care of another two or three types of subsidiary books. But the point is, if there was only one journal, most likely there would have been only one person taking care of the journal book. But now when we are using the subdivision of journal as a practice, as a matter of practice in our accounting books, then certainly I am going to have more than one person, and every person has a cost, right? You cannot hire accountant without paying them salaries. So this would be an expensive affair especially for small businesses. The businesses which are large enough, are generating enough cash, they can afford to have more persons taking care of this aspect of function. But businesses which are small, they cannot think of having subsidiary books, as there is no mandate by any accounting guidelines, by any accounting body, that we must keep subsidiary books. This is absolutely optional for a business to keep subsidiary books or not, which means this is an option to me as a business. I want to divide the journal book into subsidiary books or not, right? Since there is an option available, only those businesses which have more benefit than the cost would like to opt for it. So every businessman decides basis on the cost benefit analysis, and that rule, that principle of cost benefit analysis is very much applicable on adopting subsidiary books or not as well, right? So these are the two disadvantages, that small businesses may not find it useful, and the second is it's an expensive thing. And to keep this kind of system in place, we need to have people who have knowledge of subsidiary books. It's not that every accountant who have never dealt it with this kind of system would be able to adopt it. So someone having the basic knowledge of keeping up special books is required, and that's the financial cost. And if we hire such person, or if we train such person, then of course there is a cost associated to it. So that's how it becomes a disadvantage. So I'm sure you are clear by this time that what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of having subsidiary books. Now let's discuss about that, how do we divide, what types of subsidiaries books do we have. So subdivision of journal is basically in two parts primarily. Number one, the journal, and number two, special journal. So when we say subdivision of journal, we are dividing the journal into two parts, right? Journal and special journal. Now journal I will discuss after some time. Let me discuss about special journal only, which is basically subdivision of journal. So under special journal, the first set of special books is cash journal. Now the cash journal is further divided into cash receipt journal and cash payment journal. So what is cash journal? The cash journal, as the name suggests, it records only those transactions which have taken place by using cash or bank as a medium. It means we are not going to record any transaction which is being taken, which has been carried on credit, right? Now cash journal will record either purchase or sale of any good, any service, any non-current asset as well, right? Let's take few examples. If I have sold furniture to XYZ Limited on cash, so that particular transaction will be forming part of cash receipt journal, because I as a business I am receiving cash, right? So it will be forming part of cash receipt journal. Now you may have purchased furniture by paying on in cash. So that will be forming part of cash journal, but that would be cash payment journal. Now the question comes is it mandatory for a business to have both cash receipt journal and cash payment journal, or only either of the two is fine, or we can have a combined one? So let's discuss this thing now. So I would clarify that it's not a mandate for a business to keep both cash receipt journal and cash payment journal separately. It will depend upon the need. I as a business may be practicing only to sell on cash and not to buy anything on cash. I may have such a good reputation in the market, such a strong goodwill in the market, that I have been always able to purchase on credit, right? So in that case, I need not to have cash receipt journal. I simply can have cash payment journal, and it could be other way around as well. I may not have a good reputation, so I have never been able to buy on credit. I have to pay always cash, right? So it means I have to have cash payment journal for sure. I can do without cash receipt journal. The third situation could be that I can keep only one book which has two parts, cash receipt one side and cash payment on the other side. So that is also possible. Okay, so just to summarize this particular point, I would reinforce that a business can have a choice to either opt only cash receipt journal based on the need, or the cash payment journal. This is the second option. The third option could be to have only one cash journal having cash receipt column separately on the one side and cash payment column separately on the other side of the book, right? So I am sure this is clear to you by this time after having such a long discussion on this topic. Coming to the second type or second category of journal, the special journal, this is known as goods journal. Alright, so the goods journal can further be divided into four parts. One is purchase journal, then sales journal, the third is purchase return journal, and the fourth is sales return journal. Let's discuss it now in detail. Now, as the name suggests, purchase journal, it means if I am purchasing anything for the business. But now please pay attention what I am going to say. If I am purchasing any good or service, not anything, mind you please, if I am purchasing any good and service on credit, so this is the second term, the second word I am putting emphasis upon, then we are going to record that in purchase book or purchase journal. It means the purchase journal is also known by the other name, purchase book, right? So just to clarify, if I am purchasing furniture on credit, that transaction is not going to be part of goods journal. I have seen many students, many scholars committing a mistake here. They will record purchase of building, purchase of furniture, purchase of laptop on credit as part of goods journal, as part of purchase journal. No, only if I am buying furniture to resell it. I am a furniture shop. I am for example into a business where I am buying and selling furniture, then it would be considered as good to be sold. But if I am having an office of a chartered accountant and I purchase furniture for use in my business, in my office, then certainly that purchase of furniture on credit will not be recorded in the purchase journal, right? So please be clear that purchase journal will record only purchase of goods and services which are meant for resold, right, which are meant for trading. Only those goods and services, if purchased on credit, are going to be recorded in the purchase journal. If I am buying goods and services by paying cash, then they will go in the cash book. Alright. Coming to the second point, sales journal. As the name suggests, this particular journal or special book will record transactions pertaining to sales but made on credit. So business would be selling goods or services, whichever the commodity they deal in, right? Any business could be dealing in televisions, another business could be selling mobile phones, third business could be selling grocery, fourth business could be selling even the houses, the real estate company. So it all depends whatever type or the kind of business I am in. My stock, my inventory, my goods, my services will depend on the nature of my business. If I am selling my goods or services on credit, right, those transactions would be recorded in sales journal. But if I am selling on cash or on check, then those transactions will not form part of sales journal. They will be becoming part of cash journal, which we discussed few minutes ago, right? Coming to the third one, purchase return journal. As the name suggests, purchase return journal means if I have purchased something and I am returning some part of that purchases to the seller. Some seller sold me something, so that becomes purchased to me, right? So if I am returning some part of it to the seller, that is going to be recorded in this journal, which is known as purchase return journal. Again, the condition is that purchases should have taken place on credit. So out of credit purchase, whatever is returned is going to be part of this journal. Alright. So purchase return journal would record only the returns out of purchases made. This will depend. It's not mandatory that that you must keep purchase return journal in your books of accounts. It will depend on you. If you are in, how many transactions, how much is the frequency of transactions to return goods. There could be a business, which really need very specific, goods or parts to be used in production. There could be a business which really wants very specific dimensions of a product or of the services of a chemical or any such thing, right? So in case there is a little variation, they cannot afford to use in the final product. So they need to return it, right? So that is going to be part of this book, purchase return journal or purchase return book, if we are returning and if we had purchased it on credit. Reason is not important. The reason to return is not at all important. Important is that I am returning something which I purchased on credit, right? Coming to the fourth point, sales return journal. The name is very clear, specified. So if we have sold something on credit and the person who purchased from you is returning you something out of those sales would be recorded in this book, which would be known as sales return journal, right? The sales return journal, again as I said, is not essential to be kept as like purchase return journal. Even that is not mandate for any business to keep, right? So sales return journal can be kept only by those businesses where they experience the frequency of returns made to them by the people to whom they have sold is high. If the frequency of sales return is high, only then it is suggestive to have sales return journal. Mind you, this book, keeping this book has a cost. You need to have an accountant who really keeps these books, who records for you. Okay, so we shall not just be deciding that this option is there and I must follow or must adopt it in my business. We have to have our judicial decision to have sales return book or not, and so is for purchase return book. Coming to the next category is the bill journal. So the bill journal, as the name suggests, is going to record all those transactions where the bills have been used. Bill, as we all know, is a instrument. It's a legal instrument which can be issued or received. So you may sign a bill, you may receive a bill signed by someone else. Accordingly, this bill journal can be divided into two parts: bills receivable journal and bills payable journal, right? So bill receivable journal, as the name suggests, is a journal where we would be recording all those transactions where we have received the bill. Now, you need to think under which condition you will be receiving the bill. You will be receiving the bill which is being signed by someone else if you are selling to someone on credit, right? So just use your common sense here. If you are selling to someone else and instead of giving cash to you or paying you immediately, the person has promised you to pay in writing. So it's not that all businesses give promise in writing, but here generally those businesses with whom you are dealing for the first time, or maybe who are located in a country where you do not deal with, or wherever there is some kind of turmoil in the economy, you are not sure that business would be continuing in future or not by the time your payment is due. If you are giving credit for 90 days, which means 3 months, right? So in such situation, bill receivables are issued and duly signed. So you may write the bill which is accepted by the buyer, and buyer signs it and sends it to you, and then you will record in your book. Okay. Coming to the bills payable journal, as the name suggests, here if you are buying something on credit, you as a business, right, and instead of paying it, you promise that you will pay in future, but you have given that promise in writing. All right. So giving that promise in writing by signing a bill, that bill will be sent by you to the person who sold you, which means seller. So, and you will be accepting it, the terms and condition that I pay you or I will pay you after 50 days, after 40 days, 90 days, 60 days, with interest or without interest. Whatever the terms and conditions you may decide, so which can be generally they are mutually decided and then are being accepted by the person who signs it. So this is the third important category. So by this we come to a conclusion. I hope you all could understand the types of special books. So just to narrate, there were 3 categories: cash journal, goods journal and bill journal. They all are known as special journal books, and that's why we call them as subdivision of journal. Thank you very much for being with me for the last 25-30 minutes. Thank you, viewers.